welcome to the Conservative Cat Show. I so do appreciate you being here this morning. We've got so much to get to, and I can't wait to get to this story. It's Trump's beef move. Okay. The beef plan. Now, that has sent ranchers into a tizzy. They are fuming, and they're justified. I will get to the bigger plan behind importing Argentine beef. Argentine beef to the United States. There's a plan to import Argentina beef. And people are saying, is that America first? I'm going to talk about the bigger plan behind this. I also want to talk about Governor J.B. Pritzker telling a Whopper on, I think it was MSNBC, the receipts got dropped. Okay. The internet is forever, JB. I don't know why he doesn't understand that, but he told the Whopper of a lie about his comparisons of Trump to Hitler. And we're going to dig into that. Plus, there is blood on Illinois' hands. Yesterday, I told you about the illegal alien. I didn't come out and call him an illegal alien because I couldn't confirm it. The Illinois State Police wouldn't talk about his immigration status, but the DOJ has officially confirmed this guy's immigration status, that he is in the United States illegally, and that he killed a county official. So he killed a county board member in Coles County, Illinois, and his wife are dead. And ICE is exposing the cover-up. They just released a press release saying that they had asked Clark County to detain him, but they wouldn't detain him, so he ultimately was released, and then they had to arrest him after his release. Clark County wasn't going to give him over to ICE. So there's blood on Illinois' hands, because this is all because of the sanctuary laws that let illegal aliens come here, or encourage illegal aliens to come here. They drink, they kill people. And we talked about that a lot yesterday, why there seems to be a disturbing trend of illegals, particularly drinking, driving, and killing people. There was a case just recently where somebody was driving an 18-wheeler in California, and he killed somebody. Culture. Not all cultures are the same. Some cultures suck. Some cultures believe it's all right to marry children to 60-year-old men, little girls, child weddings and things like that. There's countries that believe, if you show a little bit of ankle, you should be stoned in the street. There's some cultures that believe eating cats and dogs is okay. And I would imagine it's a cultural thing that it's not like frowned upon to get drunk and get behind a wheel of a vehicle. Like here in America, we learn from a very early age, call mom and dad if you're drinking at a party. The billboards are everywhere. Don't drink and drive. Give your keys to a friend. Like, that's our culture here in America, and they just don't get that. And that's why we're probably seeing a disturbing trend of illegals getting behind the wheel drunk, because they just don't have the same culture as we do. So illegal or not, illegal immigrant or lawful immigrant, we have to recognize that not all cultures are equal. And sometimes we have to be very selective with the types of people and the types of culture we allow in America. All right. This woman, I'm going to play it. It's on TikTok. There's like this whole EBT TikTok. Are you guys on EBT TikTok? Because I'm on it, and I saw this woman. She was boasting about how she was shoplifting after snap cuts. And she says that she's going to take it like the white man takes things. So we're going to play that clip. Plus, the Mamdani Campaign, they had an ad that was released. It was quite funny. Transgender rabbi. I did not know those existed. But a transgender rabbi is saying he supports Mamdani and that Jewish voters allegedly support Mamdani. Although I don't think his Muslim voters are going to be very happy with this ad campaign. But this ad was not meant for the masses. This is a very small ad, and it's meant for a very small population in New York City. He's running for mayor, Mamdani. We're going to get to that ad because I think it's hilarious. But let's start with JB, shall we? he's probably more than any other prospective 2028 presidential candidate, Illinois Governor J.B. Pritzker has repeatedly made comparisons of President Donald Trump, to Hitler and Nazi Germany. Okay, with Trump's focus here in Chicago on crime and other cities, Washington, D.C. He has been like the center. Donald Trump has been at the center of his attacks here. Hyperbolic claims, and with Donald Trump being in these cities, this has been like sort of the catalyst to a lot of these claims. Although I can go back years, and I will, and show you how long Pritzker has been comparing Donald Trump to a Nazi or Hitler. I've got tweets, I've got clips. We're gonna bring the receipts. The receipts are getting dropped here on the Conservative Cat Show. Pritzker proclaimed in an August interview that the Nazis tore down, quote, the Nazis tore down the constitutional republic in Germany in the early 1930s. It doesn't take much, and we're seeing pieces of that sort of authoritarian activity happening now in this country. Like, that's what he said in an August interview just this year. Okay. Left out of Pritzker's rant, and you know this all too well if you live here in the state of Illinois, was how he had this reign of terror. Okay, people were terrified to leave their houses. You had to walk around with a letter with the state-approved seal on it if you were deemed an essential worker. I had one. I tucked it in the visor of my Chevy Cruze while I was waitressing through college. He leaves out of his little rants and his interviews about Trump being Hitler, he leaves that part out that he enjoyed emergency draconian powers for over 3 years, and he did not hold his family to the same standards that he held you and I and the people of Illinois to. He did not hold his own family to those same standards. Teddy Pritzker, doing all kinds of fun horseback riding things in Florida, going to restaurants. Strangely, though, Pritzker is keen to invoke these comparisons all the time. And he does it in interviews, does it in tweets, and I will drop the receipts here in just a second. Although he's keen to invoke that, when asked about it flat out, he denies that he has ever called Donald Trump Hitler or referred to him as a Nazi. And this was the case in a Monday podcast. So yesterday, he was on with MSNBC's Nicole Wallace, and typically his interviewers tend to join in on the gaslighting. And JB, after comparing the USA under President Donald Trump to Nazi Germany just a couple of months ago, he claimed that he never suggested that Donald Trump is Hitler. And his interviewer, Nicole Wallace, of course, chimed in and participated in this gaslighting as well. And she went as far as to say no Democrat has ever called President Donald Trump Hitler. She didn't push back. Instead, she says, I don't think any Democrat has compared the president to Adolf Hitler. And she went further, said, I think it's a smear that they project back onto critics. Okay. So, well, both of them will be danged to know that that's not true. They'll probably be scratching their heads after I drop the receipts here. I've got examples dating back to 10 years ago. Okay, them comparing the Republican Party to Hitler. And I know that they called even further than 10 years ago Ronald Reagan Hitler. But I'm just going to focus on Pritzker for today. I've got receipts 10 years ago. They were calling the Republican Party Hitler. Okay, we'll focus on Pritzker. Because he is positioning himself as almost like a resistance type leader. He is positioning himself to be the 2028 Democrat presidential nominee and potential leader of the free world. And I want to provide you Exhibit A of Governor J.B. Pritzker. Now I've got Exhibit B here, but this is Exhibit A of Governor J.B. Pritzker saying one thing and then doing another. Okay, so he says, "Oh, I don't compare President Donald Trump to Hitler. I just don't do that." But you did, and you do. Here we go.
I haven't suggested that Donald Trump is Hitler. The dangers that we saw in Nazi Germany are the dangers that we need to react to now. Well, I think everybody understands that at this point we've got an authoritarian in office. It doesn't take very long to tear apart a constitutional republic. Indeed, the Nazis did it in 53 days. That's not the country we live in. You shouldn't have to walk around with papers the way that they did in the early days of Nazi Germany. I do not invoke the specter of Nazis lightly. I'm watching with a foreboding dread what is happening in our country right now. A president who...
Really quick, the thing about the papers, we actually walked around in the state of Illinois with papers because we were deemed essential workers. I remember when I was a waitress, I got to be deemed like an essential worker because I was doing carry out. The restaurant was closed, but my boss handed us papers with a state seal on it, and it pretty much said, like, if you're pulling this person over, they are in fact an essential worker and don't have to abide by the stay-at-home order. So quite literally in Pritzker's Illinois, and as I call Illinois so lovingly, Pritzkerstan, we actually had papers that I had to show authorities. I never had to because I didn't get pulled over. But it was intended to show authorities if you were to be pulled over and questioned about you being out and violating the stay-at-home order. What was it? The shelter-in-place order. They renamed it shelter-in-place instead of stay-at-home. But here we go. More examples.
Watches a plane go down in the Potomac and suggests without facts or findings that a diversity hire is responsible for the crash. The authoritarian playbook is laid bare here.
How can you possibly compare what happened in Germany in World War II to what's going on here in the United States?
Well, we're talking about the death of a constitutional republic. That's what happened in Germany in 1933, 1934. And we're seeing today that you've got an administration in Washington that's ignoring court orders. This is literally the end of the republic as we know it. If we don't stand up to Donald Trump.
Okay, so that was Exhibit A. Now I have Exhibit B. And this was actually made, this supercut was made the last time Pritzker denied he had ever compared Donald Trump to Hitler. And I want you to note in this clip, you'll see multiple screenshots of Pritzker's tweets. And in his tweets, he even goes further than he does in interviews and in speeches. And I will share some of those tweets with you. We'll go over them one by one. But take notice of the screen grabbed tweets featured in this supercut. Here we go.
That is completely false. I have never called Republicans Nazis. Everything that he has done has been tearing down constitutional democracy. Mm-hmm. And that's what happened in Nazi Germany. It doesn't take very long to tear apart a constitutional republic. Indeed, the Nazis did it in 53 days. And our democracy is almost as fragile. And we're seeing it right now. The dangers that we saw in Nazi Germany, especially in the earliest days of Nazi Germany, are the dangers that we need to react to now. If we don't, things will get much, much worse. And so we've got to raise alarm bells to everybody. It's a 5-alarm fire, everyone.
Okay, so you saw some of the screenshots there. one tweet, and I've got the receipt here. It's October 2024, just a year ago. The way Donald Trump praises and romanticizes Hitler is unhinged, disturbing, and disqualifying. He is a dictator in waiting. We know exactly what he'll do if he's in power again. It cannot happen. Back in August of 2017, Pritzker participated in the Very Fine People hoax. We know that that's a hoax after Charlottesville, and he actually tweeted this out in 2017. This unhinged disgrace to the presidency just openly sympathized with Nazis on national television. That's what he tweeted back in August of 2017. He did it again during then President Joe Biden's disastrous June 2024 debate against President Donald Trump. And he wrote this on Twitter, now X. When neo-Nazis marched on Charlottesville chanting, "Jews will not replace us," Donald Trump called them very fine people. And now he says it's all a lie. It's not a lie. President Donald Trump is the liar. So Pritzker has denied on several occasions equating President Donald Trump to Hitler. So just who is the liar here, JB? I pulled the receipts. I mean, the June 2024 tweet, you say Trump called, neo-Nazis very fine people. And that wasn't true. That's a hoax. That's widely I'm pretty sure the fact checkers like Snopes have reported that as fake news. So that's a hoax. And I don't know about you, but I think that he's the liar, JB, because he says that he's never equated President Donald Trump to Hitler. I just shared with you a plethora of examples. Okay, now let's move on. We're going to talk about Mike and Gail Clayton. Now, I talked about this a little bit yesterday. Illinois has blood on their hands. They wrote laws that have let killers just roam free here in the state of Illinois. And now the DOJ is confirming, just as of 13 hours ago, they confirmed that this guy I was talking about yesterday, and I told you back then, I couldn't confirm it because the Illinois State Police wouldn't disclose this guy's immigration status. His name is Edwin Pacheco Meza, and he was driving in a van with a passenger, and I'll get to the passenger here in just a second, but he was driving in a van, went over the center line, was intoxicated, wound up allegedly, he hasn't been convicted of this crime yet, Mike and Gail Clayton killed them in a car wreck. And they were pillars of the Coles County community in Illinois. Coles County board member Mike Clayton, he was a husband, he was a man of service, and now he and his wife are gone, and their lives were stolen in this reckless, drunken act by an illegal alien who should have never been in this country. And to make matters worse, inside the car, and I didn't know this at the time, yesterday when I gave you the details of the case, apparently there was an extended magazine. That's illegal here in the state of Illinois. You can't have big clips, big magazines, ammunition, drugs, and there was an open container of alcohol. Now, this isn't just a story about crime. It's a story about betrayal. Betrayal by a state who chose sanctuary policies that entice and encourage these types of killers, these types of people to come to the state. And they have betrayed us. They've betrayed public safety. They've betrayed the law. And they've betrayed lives, Illinoisans' lives themselves. They could care less if you or I live or die. Okay. And by they, I mean everybody who voted. Bruce Rauner, the Illinois governor who was a Republican, who introduced sanctuary state laws. And anybody who doesn't want to reform those sanctuary laws, those sanctuary state laws, they don't care if you or I live or die. So here's what happened if you missed it. He's a Honduran national, and I've seen media report him as a Indianapolis man. Right? No, he's not from Indianapolis. He's a Honduran national. His name is Edwin Pacheco Meza, and he was behind the wheel intoxicated. Next to him was an 18-year-old. He was a Guatemalan, or he's from Guatemala, Juan Morales Martinez, and he had the drugs, the weapon, and the ammunition with him, and there was an open bottle of alcohol in the car. And they weren't supposed to be here. They're here in the United States illegally. They're border jumpers, if you will. Okay, they hop the border. They don't seek asylum. There's actually deportation order. We'll get to the 18-year-old. He was released under the Biden administration, but thanks to Illinois' so-called sanctuary state, it's not really a sanctuary for people like Mike and Gail, who are dead now. But so-called sanctuary state laws, these men were protected. They were protected from justice, and they weren't deported. So we're not protected from the tyranny that is Governor J.B. Pritzker and the state of Illinois. But these folks are protected from justice, from being deported, from getting the hell out of our country. They're not supposed to be here. They're border jumpers. Okay, so police searched their vehicle, these two men, and they found drugs, alcohol, a loaded magazine, something that would make your average Illinois gun owner a felon overnight. Okay, even if you are law-abiding and you had, a big old magazine in your car and the police pulled you over, for speeding or whatever, and they found that, you would be a felon overnight. But these weren't law-abiding citizens, okay, who just happened to have a magazine in their car. They were people here illegally. They weren't citizens at all. And then they had committed an atrocious, heinous crime, allegedly, reckless homicide by driving drunk And to add insult to injury, okay, when ICE, the Immigration and Customs Enforcement, lodged a detainer against these men, the Clark County Jail ignored it. That's according to the press release the DOJ recently sent out. They ignored it because they're hiding behind, Illinois sanctuary policies, and I'll get to why I think that's cojones-less and it lacks courage. If you are local law enforcement, you don't have to abide by Illinois sanctuary policies. Be a free thinker. Actually fulfill your oath to office if you're a sheriff, and protect and serve and uphold the Constitution. Okay, but some cojones-less local law enforcement will see the Illinois sanctuary policies and they will say that we're forbidden from working with ICE. So citizens, our own citizens, we are forced to comply with every little law, regulation from Springfield, from Washington. Yet these criminal aliens, they get a free pass. Okay, so ultimately, they've got to wait until this guy leaves Clark County Jail, ICE, and pick him up once they're out of his custody, because they say that they're legally not able to hand them over to ICE or hand this guy over to ICE. So Illinois has been made into a safe haven, not for victims, but for offenders. Now let's break this down. Back in 2017, Illinois became the first state in the nation to call itself a sanctuary state. Now, under the Illinois Trust Act, police believe, like I said, that they can't cooperate with ICE on immigration enforcement unless there's a judicial warrant. Now, the way I interpret the Trust Act is that it's completely civil and it prohibits local police, from doing ICE's job. So what do I mean by that? ICE, they're supposed to do interviews and stuff with people for work visas, make sure that their work visa is actually being, abided by, like they're actually working, and that all the necessary paperwork for their status is up to date. Now, I don't want our local police doing that. Okay, it takes up way too much time. They've got bigger fish to fry, policing their own communities. I get that. Okay. And I'm for that. But when somebody is here illegally, you know it, they're in your custody, and then they commit a crime on top of being in the country illegally, and they are in your custody, not forfeiting that person over to ICE is, in my opinion, aiding and abetting a crime. And we certainly shouldn't be asking our local police officers and enforcement to commit crimes, right? So these local law enforcement people, they're saying, nope, sorry, we can't help you. Really what it is, they're saying, we won't help you. Because the way I interpret the Trust Act is, hey, it's just civil. Like, if you find somebody who's here criminally and you know that they've overstayed their visa, they don't have the proper documentation to prove that they're here in the United States legally and have status or citizenship, they're not a citizen, or that they can't provide the necessary immigration status, then that's when the phone call to ICE has to happen, because they're committing a crime. By not calling ICE, you are aiding and abetting a criminal. Okay, so ICE asked Clark County to hold Morales Martinez for pickup. The jail refused. ICE agents had to wait outside like bounty hunters, and they had to arrest him once he was released. So that's not justice reform. That's chaos dressed up as compassion. Okay, they have to wait outside like bounty hunters and scoop him up, and Clark County refuses to cooperate with ICE in any kind of way. They wouldn't even hold him until they got there to detain him. And think about the message that sends. If you're an illegal alien who breaks the law here in Illinois, don't worry, you're going to be protected. In fact, we'll release you on no cash bail, and we're not going to hand you over to the federal authorities. Don't worry, you're going to be protected. But if you're a legal citizen, say you're a farmer, a mom, a dad, a county board member, you're on your own. We're not going to protect you. Nobody protected Mike and Gail Clayton. Who protected them? So this sanctuary policy, what it does, it turns mercy into madness. Okay, it tells lawbreakers that you belong here, and law-abiding Americans that you're expendable, and we don't give a damn about your life. Now, the Trump administration, Secretary Kristi Noem at DHS, she said ICE is no longer sitting idle. The Assistant Secretary, Tricia McLaurin, she actually said this very plainly in a recent DOJ news release. Here's what she says. She says, 2 innocents were killed because this criminal illegal alien chose to drive under the influence. President Donald Trump and Secretary Noem have unleashed ICE and the Border Patrol in Illinois to restore law and order and remove criminal aliens from our communities. Mary Miller chimed in on this story. She said, quote, on X, the tragic news out of Coles County, DHS government has confirmed that he is an illegal alien who never should have been here in our country, and he killed the county board member, Michael Clayton, and his wife, Gail, in a drunk driving crash. 2 innocent people were transported to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. 2 other innocent people. I'm not sure about that. I don't know if Mary Miller is right there. From what I could gather from the preliminary reporting yesterday, the people who were transported to hospitals, now this might actually be true. I don't know. I'll have to double check, but there might have been other people outside of Mike and Gail affected by the drunk driving incident. I do know that Edwin and this Morales Martinez guy, Juan, or whatever the hell his name is, I do know that they sustained minor injuries and went to a hospital, and they addressed those. Or, well, Juan didn't have any, but the driver, Edwin, did have minor injuries. Mary Miller goes on in her X post. I didn't know that about the other people being transported to the hospital. I'll have to check and make sure. But she says that there were other people who were transported with life-threatening injuries. That's really sad. Democrats' deadly sanctuary policies allowed this criminal to enter, stay, and commit this horrific act. Chris, State Representative Chris Miller, and I are praying for the victims, their loved ones, and the entire Coles County community as they grieve this unimaginable loss. Yeah. Look, I'm glad that we have Kristi Noem. I'm glad that we have the DHS now and Mary Miller. We should have had this kind of leadership years ago. Law and order isn't about cruelty. I want to be very clear about that. Law and order isn't being cruel. It's about protection. It's about ensuring no family has to bury their loved ones because a foreign national who broke our laws was allowed to stay here in the country. That's what this is about. It's about law and order, and it's not cruel. Now, here's what the established media will not tell you. And it's so funny. All the media was reporting him as an Indianapolis man, and State Senator Chapin Rose and Illinois State Representative Adam Demark, they came out with this before anybody else, and they said he's an illegal. And now the DOJ has confirmed that. Authorities have confirmed that the Illinois State Police, when asked, would not give up his immigration status and referred all questions to ICE. Now, under the Biden administration, the 18-year-old who was with the drunk driver, Juan Morales Martinez, he was released into the U.S. in December of 2023. Okay, so he was like semi in custody, like we knew of him, but he wasn't deported. He wasn't detained. He was released under the Biden administration. Think about that. The federal government waved him in, and Illinois shielded him. Had the federal government done their jobs under the Biden administration in 2023, Mike and Gail could possibly still be here with their lives. He wouldn't have been in that car with Edwin, possibly supplying him the alcohol or drinking with them. It possibly could have still been here had Joe Biden. So there is blood on the Biden administration's hands and on Illinois' hands because of the sanctuary state policies. Now, I want to take a minute and talk about this from a Christian perspective. The Bible tells us in Romans 13 that governing authorities exist to punish those who do evil and to praise those who do good. Okay, but in Illinois, we've flipped that script upside down. It protects wrongdoers and punishes the righteous. And when the state says law enforcement can't help ICE, it's not just political. It is a spiritual rebellion. You understand? This is a rejection of justice. You're telling law enforcement to commit crimes, okay, by aiding and abetting criminals and not forfeiting them over to the federal authorities to answer for their federal crimes. Okay. This is spiritual rebellion because it's anti-biblical, Romans 13. So Illinois politicians, they parade around and talk about compassion, about inclusion, and about how you want to be a welcoming state. Well, who's welcoming the Clayton family today? Who's comforting the children, the neighbors, the community who lost 2 souls because politicians wanted virtue points from the media or votes? Okay, because really, ultimately, that's what it's all about. Politicians want the votes. They want the press releases, the virtue points to rile up their base to go out and vote for them. I'm a welcoming politician. I want to make this a welcoming state or a welcoming community. Okay, who's welcoming or comforting the children, the neighbors, the community who lost these 2 souls? Who's welcoming the Clayton family? This isn't compassion, it's corruption, dressed up as compassion. And every lawmaker who voted to tie the hands of local law enforcement or to confuse local law enforcement, like I said, I think local law enforcement have an out here. The Trust Act, from what I understand and interpret it as, is civil and doesn't extend to criminal acts. So you can cooperate with ICE when it comes to criminal acts and the criminal act of being here in the country illegally. You can cooperate with ICE and deport them. But every lawmaker who has confused law enforcement with the Trust Act, with these sanctuary state policies, there's blood on their hands. Blood on their hands. So America First doesn't just mean putting our economy or our borders first. It means putting our people first. Okay, the Claytons were our people. Okay, the Clayton tragedy reminds us that, hey, borders exist for a reason. They're not just lines on a map. They're moral boundaries between us and chaos. Like I said, culturally, these guys probably just don't care. I'm not saying that drinking and driving isn't bad, okay? But to them, they don't see it as bad. Why? Because they come from a place where it's not deemed a taboo or wrong. Like, they come from a place that thinks it's acceptable. And we shouldn't allow those types of people here. Even legally, and I want to talk about legal immigration here for just a second, we have to be very selective, because I don't want the types of people here who eat cats and dogs, marry off children to grown men, and think drinking and driving is cool. I don't want those types of people here. And if they aren't willing to become American, I don't want them here. They have to assimilate. And there's a big difference between wanting to be in America, and be an American. And we have to be very selective with our legal immigration as well. And we have to choose people who want to be an American and give them citizenship. Okay, so every sovereign nation has a right, no, a duty to protect its citizens. Without that, you don't have a country at all. You have a duty to protect your citizens. Sovereignty is all throughout the Bible. God talks about he's pro-sovereignty. And, I think President Donald Trump understands that. Kristi Noem understands that. ICE understands that. But Chicago, Springfield, Illinois political class, I don't think they get it. They're too busy worrying about offending their activists and their base. And real Americans are dying, at the expense of their silly little press releases that say, I'm a welcoming politician and I am all for a welcoming community. Okay. Now, let's not forget, these are the same politicians who want to disarm you. I think it's fascinating, the developments here in this story, where ammunition was found, a big old magazine was found, an open bottle of alcohol in the car. And these are the same politicians who want to make you defenseless, by the way. They want to make it harder for you to defend your home. If it was up to these welcoming city type folks or these welcoming state folks, they would ask you to take the door off of your hinges and welcome just anybody into your home. Okay, they want to make it harder for you to defend your home while they welcome violent offenders into your neighborhoods. Think about that. This Honduran national had an extended magazine and ammo in Illinois. That's illegal, and that's banned for citizens of this state. Residents can't have those types of things, but somehow the lawbreakers are protected, and he's released, and God forbid we give him over to ICE. So the Claytons deserve justice, and Illinois voters have to start thinking about these questions. Why did your lawmakers vote for sanctuary policies to shield criminals? Why do local jails ignore federal detainers? Why is the state government more afraid of ICE than it is injustice? They say, ICE is the Gestapo and we're afraid of them and they're not welcoming and they hate the brown people, right? But aren't you afraid of injustice? Aren't you afraid of the Mikes and the Gales dying? Innocents dying. Aren't you afraid of that more? So it's time for Illinois to become a sanctuary state for citizens, not for criminals. Okay. I'm praying for the Claytons. And I want you to think for a second, if this situation were to be reversed and Michael Clayton had been carrying an extended magazine, a bottle of whiskey in his car, the state would have booked him. Okay. If a farmer in Coles County would have accidentally ran a red light, they would have had his license suspended like that, okay, before the sun rose. Okay, but when an illegal alien kills 2 people, is drunk, carrying ammunition, drugs, the state shrugs it off and says, there's nothing we can do. We're not going to hand you over to the federal government to answer for your federal crimes. Why? Because it's policy. Like, that's just total BS. Okay. And Michael and Gail Clayton, they were the kinds of Americans that keep this country strong. And if we keep having these people die at the hands of people who shouldn't even be here, we're not going to have a country left, or a state left. Gail and Mike, they believed in service. They believed in their community. And they were killed by a system that valued ideology over innocence. And I think that we need to remember their names, not just as victims, but as calls to action. Because unless Illinois repeals their sanctuary policies and restores cooperation with ICE, there will be another Clayton family. There will be an empty pew at your church. There will be another flag at half-mast, okay? And we can't bring them back, but we can honor the Claytons by demanding justice, securing our borders, and standing for truth in a state that has really forgotten what truth even means. If someone is going to commit a crime, one would assume that they'd at least, be smart enough not to document it. And I want to get to this story here coming up in just a little bit. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends, subscribe to the channels. Dems love their criminal voters. Yep. Charge them as accessories after the fact. I'm assuming you're talking about Clark County, correct? I remember carrying my papers to get to and from work. He and many other Democrats, in fact, made many comparisons of Trump to Hitler, so sickening that they deny everything smoke and mirrors. Yeah, I appreciate you being here, Kim. Kim is awesome. She ran in a Democrat primary against Patrick Joyce. That's kind of my hometown for state senate. She's a staple in her community. She's awesome. Yeah, I carried around my papers to and from work. He says, oh, Donald Trump's going to make you carry around your papers and yada, yada. Governor J.B. Pritzker and I played the receipts for you. Yeah, actually, that happened in your state under your tyrannical rule, man. Yes, it's so sad what happened to Mike and Gail. We're praying for their families. I can't imagine what they're going through, losing 2 people, like a husband and a wife. I couldn't imagine losing the Clayton like if I was a family member, losing 2 people. It's just so sad. And they won't be the last unless we repeal the sanctuary policies. Okay, we're going to come back and I'm going to talk about SNAP, because if you're going to commit a crime, you probably shouldn't document it on the internet. You think you'd be smart enough not to do that, but I'm just going to say this, and it might be controversial. Usually people who are collecting food stamps probably aren't the smartest people, and you wouldn't necessarily call them smart, at least habitual food stamp recipients, okay? Like I said, my parents, they collected SNAP, but it was for a period of 2-3 months, and they did it a few times while my dad was kind of in and out of jobs. The average Illinoisan stays on SNAP for decades. The system is not designed to do that, okay, to be that. And I've actually gotten to a point, I'm not against SNAP. It helped my family, when I was a young girl, but I'm getting to a point now, and I don't know, in the comment section, let me know what you think. I'm getting to a point where even legal immigration, I want to be very selective about it. The whole H-1B work visa thing, not really for it. We should really just focus on naturalizing people. I don't like the student visas and things like that. It just seems like there's a billion different visas out there, and people are exploiting these programs, specifically H-1Bs, the corporations, right? They've got H-1B visa workers coming in, and they're paying them way below what they'd pay an American citizen to do the same job. And really, it's just slave labor, under the guise of slave labor, or it's dressing up slave labor with fancy language like, oh, he's an H-1B visa employee. Actually, we wanted him because it helps us with our bottom line. That's what corporations are doing. Like, I'm getting to a point where they are pushing me further right, and like I hate it. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not anti-work visa or student visa. I never used to be, but I'm getting to a point where it's like, yeah, maybe these people don't have the same culture we do. It's evident. Maybe they don't think drinking and driving is bad. Maybe they eat cats and dogs. Maybe they marry off children to old men. They don't see problems with that in their country, and then they bring it all over here. And I'm like at a point where I want to be very selective. And if they aren't willing to be Americans and they just want to be in America, I say don't let them in. They have got to want to assimilate to our culture. I'm further right on that issue. I'm getting further right on the SNAP issue, where I'm like, man, there's so much abuse. 42 million people on SNAP. There's only 300 million some odd people in America. Like, that's 12% of Americans are on food stamps. It was meant to be a program to supplement nutritional food to keep people from starving. Okay. And now it's become just a breeding ground for abuse and for people to buy their snacks and their soda pop or to, go buy alcohol, and we subsidize them, and they can, shift their budgets around where they can go buy the alcohol now because they have the food stamp money, So we will get to this woman that I found on the interweb here in just a little bit. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I'll be right back. Welcome to Conservative Cat Clips, the show that cuts through the noise with claws out truth and unapologetic common sense. I'm your host, Kat. No fluff, just facts. Today, we're tackling the topic mainstream media would rather tiptoe around, and that's abortion, its history, its turning point, and what's happening now and where it's headed. Let's start with the past. In 1973, the Supreme Court handed down Roe v. Wade, and just like that, abortion became legal nationwide. It wasn't voted on. It wasn't in the Constitution. It was judicial activism, plain and simple. And over the next 49 years, over 60 million unborn lives were lost under this illusion that it was just healthcare, that this is just healthcare. Fast forward to the game changer, June 24th, 2022. Dobbs versus Jackson's Women's Health Organization. The court finally corrected course, overturned Roe, and returned the power back to the states. Cue the media meltdown. But guess what? That's what democracy looks like. Local, real control. Right now, it's a state-by-state battle. Red states are passing laws to protect unborn life, some with heartbeat bills, others with total bans. Blue states, on the other hand, are sprinting forward, abortion on demand, some even pushing abortion access up until birth. That's not progressive, that's extreme. And here's where it gets even messier. Abortion pills. The latest front in this fight. The FDA greenlit mail-order abortion pills with almost no oversight. Think about that. A teenager can get these powerful drugs sent to her door without even seeing a doctor. Safe? Hardly. But the Biden administration, they were all in, treating abortion like it's the crown jewel of their social agenda. What's next? The future of abortion is being written right now. The state legislatures, in the courts, and in the culture, and at the ballot box. Conservatives are stepping up, passing strong protections, supporting crisis pregnancy centers, promoting adoption reform, and standing firm with both the mother and the child. Here's the bottom line. The fight isn't over. It's just begun, and we're no longer playing defense, though. We're shaping the culture. One law, one vote, and one voice at a time. This has been Conservative Cat Clips, where the truth cuts deep and the values stand tall, and we don't apologize for standing up for life. Okay, smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I so do appreciate you being here. So true, food stamps were meant to be a safety net. Now it's a way of life. Yes. Jennifer, thanks for being here. Bob, he says, as long as Illinois has a Democrat supermajority, you will never get that law repealed. Exactly. Now, I will say this. If we get a Republican governor, my hope is for Darren Bailey to win the gubernatorial race in 2026. If we get a governor, I don't think we would have seen this problem where, Clark County is not handing over, and they're abiding by the Trust Act. Here's why. The Illinois State Police, they were conducting the investigation, and they refused to tell anybody his immigration status. They were being very hush-hush about it, very much a cover-up, that this guy was an illegal alien who killed 2 people in Coles County, one of them being a county board member. They were being very hush-hush about it, right? So the Illinois State Police is at the direction of the governor. Okay, those people in those top positions are appointed by the governor. If we get the gubernatorial position, if we get that, I think that we have a much better shot at maybe not repealing that law, but the enforcement of these laws, changing the interpretation of these laws and the culture of how local law enforcement interprets these laws. I really think that if we were to even get the governor position, we would be fine, because the state police, at the direction of the governor, had the governor, been briefed, hey, these were illegal aliens. He could direct the state police, hey, we want you to go work with ICE on this, and you could kind of bypass some of these sanctuary laws. I think you can do it now. At a local level, I encourage local law enforcement to not read the Trust Act like the Democrat governor would want you to, but rather read it, interpret it, and understand that that doesn't extend, obviously, to criminal cases where you have an illegal alien here. He's a border jumper. He violated a federal statute. That's criminal. You can't ask local law enforcement to aid and abet him and conceal him away from federal authorities. That's that's not upholding your duty to uphold federal and state laws. So I would encourage local law enforcement to just kind of thumb their noses at the sanctuary state laws, because they're kind of unconstitutional anyway. And you can't pass a state law that is also not that is against federal law. Okay, there has to be, you are a part of the United States. Illinois is a part of the United States, as much as Governor J.B. Pritzker wouldn't want it to be. It is, they haven't seceded, from what I understand, so yet. That might be coming. I really think Governor J.B. Pritzker wants to be like the leader of his own land. He's a very ambitious guy. So I want to get to the food stamp thing, because I found this on the internet, and you would think that people would be smart enough not to document their crimes online, but this woman did, and I guarantee many food stamp recipients are not exactly what you would call smart. I don't know if you guys saw this, but people who are Googling about the food stamps drying up on November 1st, that's what's going to happen because the government shutdown. The government shutdown probably doesn't affect you or I as much as, people who rely on this kind of stuff. And it is sad for those who rely on this kind of stuff. And federal workers are really affected by the government shutdown up to this point. I think we're on day 29, 30, whatever. The longest shutdown has been 35 days, I believe. In 2018, that happened. But you and I, we don't interact with the government. The sun still rises. We still pour our coffee in the morning, and we go to work, and we come back home, and we take care of our families. Okay, that's most Americans. Some Americans, they are public sector employees. And, I feel sympathy for them to an extent. The TSA worker or the food safety inspector with the USDA, they might not be getting paid. But look, people in the private sector deal with this kind of stuff all the time. A business, you don't know when you're going to go belly up, right? and you might not get your paycheck, you might get fired, you might get laid off. At least these guys in the public sector kind of have an understanding that this is a potential. Like every single year, this kind of happens where the government shut down or they can't come to an agreement on the continuing resolution. And like you see it coming. So like I have some sympathy, but like let's be real. I mean, like you're a public sector employee, you should see that this kind of stuff happens all the time. And, you're not exempt from participating in the real world like everybody else. Everybody else has to deal with, hey, am I going to lose my job today? Or am I going to get laid off? Or am I not going to get my paycheck? Like this kind of stuff happens in the private sector all of the time. This is not anything taboo, I guess. So, I mean, some sympathy, but not really, right? Okay. Anyway, the government shut down November 1st. The food stamps are drying up. Okay. Now, after bragging about all of the things that she stole from the store because her food stamps got cut off, this woman tells her followers on social media to infiltrate churches and go get that rent money. Now, I don't call these food stamp recipients super smart. I'd say a majority of them actually trending right now. There was a meme circulating and it was real. Is they taken away food stamps? So not grammatically correct people are taking to the Google search engine and they are typing in, is they taking away food stamps? That was like the number one Google search when you typed in is they, and it was, is they taking away food stamps? So when I say food stamp recipients, probably not what you would call smart people, most of them meant for safety net. And I don't doubt that there's people on them who are using them wisely and as a safety net, as a means of not starving. Okay. I don't doubt that there are those people, but I think largely the 12% of Americans who are on this, I would say that about, if I had to guess, 3% of that 12% are people who actually need food stamps. The other 9% are probably women like this woman, women and men like this woman. So let's take a look at this clip. And warning, warning, warning. If you have kids listening, this is a very expletive-filled rant. Okay, she says the S word, she says the F word. So now is the time to turn it down a little bit for kiddos. If they're watching, take a listen.
Store. So they wanted $7 for this. Mind you, I don't have food stamps anymore. They cut me off. So I only had $22 left in food stamps. So this is what I stole. Okay. They wanted $9 for this. I said, oh, I don't got $9. Then they wanted $2 for this. They wanted, sorry, it's all fucked up because it's been in my purse. $7 for this. I'm making some stuffed salmon today. These are needed. I'm not paying $7 for that. Okay. Let me show you the most important thing to me. Short ribs. Take off the label so that you don't beep. Get your fucking meat. How many do you think that I got? How many short ribs is that? And can I be real? More y'all bitch ass niggas should have started taking shit from the motherfucking corporations a long time ago. Y'all just didn't have that shit in your motherfucking bones. Get out there and get in the motherfucking field like I told you. Everything out here is yours. Whether or not you take it, they call that shit free will. I call that shit eminent domain. You know what I'm saying? One thing I learned from the white men, take it! Hey, now! Take it! I don't give a fuck who's already sitting there. I don't give a fuck if your land was already established. Bitch, it's mine now, and I want it. That is what we should be preaching in the land to the fucking masses. Act more like a white man. Take it for yourself, bitch, and you won't be worried about who don't got it. You see what I'm saying? Get out there and radish. Last but not least, go in that church and infiltrate. Don't be stupid. Get in there. Ask them for some rent money. Ask them for some help. You've been tithing. Say your lights is off. You need a stipend. You need some food. Go to the church. Ask for help. If the pastor don't help you out, blast them on social media. Quickest way to fuck up the church's money is ask for some. Go do it. See what you get. Report back to a real bitch. Let me know. If the church doesn't help you after all those tithes you gave, well, go ask for your tithes back. See if they can give you a donation form and they can just redonate your money back to you. See if they can do that. If they can't, I want you to come back under this post and give me the reason why they said they cannot reimburse you back the money you and your family have given to them for years. Also, why they can't help you. Let me know.
Whoa. Well, that was something. She goes, look, they wanted $9 for this. I said, oh, I don't got $9. So this woman took it upon herself to post all of the things that she stole at the grocery store, and as a way to stick it to the government, I guess, the government in which she relies on, the government in which, like, and then she wants to stick it to these corporations, right? And she mentioned the corporations, and you should have been doing this a long time ago, stealing from these corporations. You being on Snap is the biggest gift to these corporations, by the way. Okay, if you want to stick it to these corporations, go out there and make your own grocery store. Go out there, create your own business, be a competitor. Okay, do something with your life. The food stamps, actually, a big portion of it, I think it's like 20 million or 20%. So it's 110 billion, or 110 billion goes out in SNAP. Okay, 20 billion of that is what Walmart collects. They collect like 20% of, what goes out in SNAP, this retailer, Walmart. So you really want to stick it to the corporation? Go out there and make a competitive business. Go out there. There's all kinds of things like the ready meals that you can ship to the door. There's all kinds of grocery stores or mom and pop grocery stores. Go be your own boss, okay, and be a competitor of the Walmarts. And she complained about how absurd the prices were for her, expensive taste. I don't know about you, but I don't buy Tic Tacs. It's kind of for, people with expensive taste, in my opinion. And I think that she has an expensive taste. Look at that Coach bag that she was waving around. I don't have a Coach bag, right? And she complained about how absurd the prices were for her expensive taste, and implied that you, the taxpayer, should be funding it. She justified this in another video, and she says, one thing I learned from the white man is to just take it. And while some may call it free will to steal, according to her, she believes this is simply eminent domain. In other words, she's taken it upon herself to take property away from others while she enjoys the fruits of other people's labor. Yeah, she's totally logical, totally compassionate. I don't know about you, but she's just such a sweet woman, this one is. And then she goes as far as to say, go take from the church. Yeah. Oh, well, and she doesn't understand what a tithe is. A tithe is you tithe, and that's it. It's giving up your first fruits, giving up a portion of your money to God and to the ministry. Okay. So you can't ask for it back. One. Two, I don't think the church would look too kindly on stealing. Right? So they're not going to give you money if you're out there stealing $9 short ribs or whatever the hell you were stealing. Take a listen. This is another video, I think, or that she posted in a follow-up. Here we go.
And can I be real? More y'all bitch ass niggas should have started taking shit from the motherfucking corporations a long time ago. Y'all just didn't have that shit in your motherfucking bones. Get out there and get in the motherfucking field like I told you. Everything out here is yours.
Okay, like I said, if you're on food stamps, you are contributing to these corporations more than you would know. They rely on your taxpayer. It's corporate welfare. Okay, so you wanting your food stamps is actually helping the corporations that you claim to hate, but whatever.
Whether or not you take it, they call that shit free will. I call that shit eminent domain. You know what I'm saying? One thing I learned from the white man, take it! Hey, now! Take it! I don't give a fuck who's already sitting there. I don't give a fuck if your land was already established. Bitch, it's mine now, and I want it. That is what we should be preaching in the land to the fucking masses. Act more like a white man. Take it for yourself, bitch, and you won't be worried about who don't got it. You see what I'm saying? Get out there and ravish.
Gosh, it's just so cringy. It's so sad, honestly. Like, this woman is clearly, one thing that I think has become extremely evident is that these people rely on these handouts, and they've relied on them for far too long. And I don't know about you, but this has come a long way from being temporary help, or SNAP being used as temporary help. It's disincentivizing people from working. It's creating a sense of entitlement. Just ravish on yourself. Take whatever you want. The white man taking whatever he wants, like the white man. I don't know. And forcing the government to forever fund your expensive taste. Okay, that is what this has become. And I think that it's odd that these EBT influencers, and that's what they're called nowadays, there's EBT TikTok, they're getting hundreds of thousands of likes and follows and things like that, to go out there and do things like this. And this just goes to show you how lost we are as a society. We're rewarding them with likes, follows, and subscriptions and things like that. We have fallen so far as a society. And like I said, she has got the Coach bag. She's got the long nails. That stuff certainly isn't cheap. Okay. If she can't afford mint and cheese, she puts out what she stole, and she's bragging about her crime online. How can she afford a Coach bag? Okay. There's far more affordable alternatives to a Coach bag. And I'm very doubtful that she got it as a gift, because who would like that woman enough to give her a gift? Or I doubt that she thrifted it. But that's neither here nor there. Do we need any more proof? And like I said, I'm becoming further and further right. I'm almost at the point where I say, get rid of the freaking program. Clearly, it's been abused. Let's start restricting these benefits. And if we're not going to restrict them and put limits on them, I say we just get rid of it altogether. I'm almost at that point. I don't think that you need any more proof that we need to restrict it, or limit the benefits, or perhaps outright get rid of it altogether. All right, let's talk about Zohran Mamdani, his campaign. It's getting more and more bizarre day by day. Now here's a clip of 3 women, 1 trans. They're all rabbis, I suppose, and this clip is beating everybody's expectations for the Zohran Mamdani. I didn't think it could get any more weird or bizarre, but of course he's beating my expectations with this ad for himself. Take a listen. Here we go.
Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi, Rabbi. Hi. We're among the thousands of Jewish New Yorkers who've been
female rabbis. I also am shocked by that, but I'm more shocked by the guy on the left, clearly trans. You'll see here in just a second, but take a listen.
out door knocking and phone banking to elect Zohran Mamdani. we're also rabbis.
We know Zoran will fight to make our city affordable and safe for our families.
And for our neighbors of all faiths and backgrounds. As New Yorkers, we're also just people who live here, who don't want to get priced out of this incredible city that we call home. We know fellow Jews want to be able to afford housing, transportation, and childcare for their families too.
As Jews, as rabbis, as New Yorkers, we believe that all people deserve to thrive. Zoran agrees.
But let's get real. This isn't only about belief, it's about action. So let's build a flourishing city.
Together, let's elect Zoran. Zoran!
I hated it. Trans rabbis for Zoran. Kind of sounds like a Babylon Bee article or a joke, especially considering he's probably banking pretty hard on that Muslim vote. But one thing about Mamdani is that he likes to play both sides. And he likes to play all sides of the spectrum. So, while the last people he wishes to see this new campaign video would be the Muslims, he probably doesn't want them to see it. It's really intended to appease a tiny little audience. It wasn't like extremely blasted out there or anything. I think that it's intended to appease a tiny little audience. He's trying to grab like this radical Jewish vote. Nonetheless, I think that this video deserves to be mocked into oblivion. What the hell was that? I was today years old. I found out that one, female rabbis is a thing. I didn't realize that was a thing in Jewish Orthodox Judaism. Two, I didn't think trans rabbis were a thing. No one ever thought female secular Jewish rabbis would be campaigning for a radical woke Muslim dude. But here we are in 2025, and I guess anything is possible. The fact that this ad is not satire is astonishing. I had to double check, make sure that this wasn't satire. And that I think that's almost as astonishing as a trans rabbi being a thing. But I digress. According to the New York Post, the anti-Israel transgender rabbi, who was once tossed out of the White House, probably for being disorderly, I didn't check into it all that much, to be honest with you, becomes the face of the Jews for Zoran in this ad, and she tries to rally, the transgender person tries to rally support for the socialist mayoral frontrunner Zoran Mamdani in the final days of the election. So not is this person just any old trans rabbi. No. This is a trans rabbi who also happens to be anti-Israel. Makes a ton of sense. Also appears to be too woke for the Biden administration, because the Biden administration kicked this person out of the White House. You really can't make this level of absurdity up, folks. Like, we're getting to a point where I just don't, I can't believe that this is real. Abby Stein is the transgender individual's name. He's a part-time rabbi at this progressive synagogue in Brooklyn. And there's a handful of rabbis featured in this ad. And this ad was put out by Jews for Racial and Economic Justice, a nonprofit organization, I'm sure. According to the synagogue where this guy is a part-time rabbi, their website, their mission is to, quote, share a commitment to ending structural racism and becoming an anti-racist congregation, and as individuals of varying sexual orientation, gender identities, races, family arrangements, and Jewish identities and backgrounds, we search for meaningful and just expressions of our Judaism in today's uncertain world. So yeah, this, unsurprisingly, I mean, really, this organization is putting out ads with trans rabbis for Mamdani. So in the ad, you heard Abby Stein, the trans rabbi, say, "We know Zoran will fight to make our city affordable and our families safe." As Jews, as rabbis, as New Yorkers, we believe that all people deserve to thrive, and Zoran agrees. What's crazy is that they think that the New York City, controlled by a radical leftist socialist, that's somehow going to be affordable for New Yorkers. Okay. The left has controlled New York City for a long, long time, much like Illinois. The state of Illinois has been controlled by Democrats. It's kind of comical. It's pathetic that you've got people like this trans rabbi here saying that more radical leftism is the solution to make the city more affordable, although the city's been run by the left for years, probably longer than I've been alive, and it hasn't gotten better. Like, if it works and if it will work, then why isn't it working, kind of thing, right? You truly have to be delusional to believe that a socialist is going to make life affordable for you. So yeah, I mean, it's delusional, but that's pretty par for the course, I guess, being that this man thinks that he's a woman. And then, the shoe fits. I mean, he's delusional. He comes up with these delusional things like a socialist is somehow going to make the city more affordable. It checks out. And also, have you ever noticed, I'm just going to point this out, I just noticed it, this picture of all of them together. Let me show you guys here in the clip.
To get price.
Okay, here they are. They're all kind of like in gray, black, and then this individual, the trans individual, is in a bright green and red pants, mismatchy. So one thing that I've noticed about transgender individuals, particularly men trying to be women, there's a few things I've noticed. They almost like try to look like little girls. It's very weird, where they do mismatchy type things. Like, women would never wear that. Like red and green, it just doesn't match. And I can clearly tell you're transgender. One, by the voice, two, your hair, the bald patches. The testosterone's still there. You're taking estrogen to grow out your hair. You can kind of see the bald patches. There's some tells, right? But one tell that I notice all the time is the butterfly jewelry. They wear like very kid-like jewelry, like little girl jewelry. A grown woman would not be mismatching like that. Wearing green and red. And then also, butterfly jewelry is a thing. It's just something that I've noticed. I don't know. Throw it in the comment section. What's a tell? What is a tell? Because it's getting harder and harder to tell if somebody's transgender or not. I'll give you that. The hormones are crazy. They're getting them on the hormones earlier. It's getting harder and harder to tell. The surgeries are insane. But a tell for me, it's that, and then the hands. If the hands are gigantic, like a man's, or the jaw, maybe the Adam's apple gives them away. I don't know. Throw it in the comment section. How do you distinguish if somebody is trans or not? There are a few things I look for. Number one, what kind of jewelry? Are you wearing grown woman jewelry or little girl jewelry? If it's little girl jewelry, 8 times out of 10, you're trans. All right. Speaking of another story I want to get to today, which is going to make your jaw drop. It's very bizarre and weird. Also in New York City. This progressive pursuit to make Latinx girlies feel included in the Holocaust. Yes, whatever the hell that means. There's a new musical in New York City, and these theater people are so weird. I actually got blocked from my high school theater department. I made some comments. They are doing this Hades Town thing. I actually have a youth group, and there was a young Christian girl. She expressed that she was uncomfortable by Hades Town. I think Normal West, Normal is a central Illinois town, had put it on. Reed Custer, Illinois, they're putting it on. It's called Hades Town. I've watched bits and pieces of the adult version of this musical. Now, of course, they can't do the adult version because that'd be really bad. So they're doing the teen version of this musical. Number one, if you have to do the teen version of anything, it's probably inappropriate. So Hades Town, I had a youth group girl of mine. She expressed that she didn't really want to go watch it, that she felt offended. And they'll try to say, the leftists will say, oh, well, it's Greek mythology. You know, there's nothing wrong with Greek mythology. And it's like, actually, you know, it's a meme on Christianity. There's actually a Hebrew word in the Bible. It's Sheol, Sheol, I think is the spelling. It's Hebrew translated in the Greek. It's Hades, which is a place where you kind of await judgment, wicked or righteous, and you await God's judgment. Okay. In this musical, they kind of depict it as hell. Okay. So Hades is an actual word in the Christian Bible, translated in the Greek Hades. It's translated from the Hebrew word Sheol, and it's a realm in which you're awaiting judgment. And, you know, I'm not sure how that kind of works in with purgatory and Catholicism, but there's a realm in which you wait for judgment. Okay. And it's offensive to Christians. Bottom line. Okay. The musical, it kind of creates this like hell, but it's not actually hell. It's actually a place where people go to work for the man, and it's like a union type, like pro-union musical. It's very bizarre, very inappropriate for children. There are themes in it that are just made for adults. Okay. And I put that out there on social media and, you know, made a comment on my hometown theater department page. And I said, hey, you know, this is offensive to Christians. These are themes that adults struggle with understanding. And you're having children perform these themes on stage. Do better. Right. So the theater world is just inappropriate, and they really stretch societal norms and bounds, and they go beyond what they should really. It's just odd. Anyway, I got banned. It's all right. But this musical, I think, is somewhat worse, pretty much worse than Hades Town, which is being performed by children all throughout the state. I don't know what it is. Maybe these theater people are all in a group chat together and they say, hey, let's all do the same musical. I don't know what the hell that is, but it seems like every high school in the central Illinois, northern Illinois area is performing Hades Town, which is just an anti-Christian musical with very adult themes in it. So much so, it's an adult musical where they had to create a teen version for it because it's that adult. Okay. Anyway, so this musical's worse. It's in New York City. A new musical is underway, and it turns Anne Frank into a pansexual Latina, and she has a non-binary lover and a neurodiverse family. The New York musical has sparked outrage. Yes. I'd imagine from victims or from the Jewish community, being that the Jewish were victims during the Holocaust, and this is kind of a spit in their face, to reimagine Anne Frank as a pansexual Latina. So the production is called Slam Frank. It focuses on modern inclusivity and identity politics and uses them to reimagine the Holocaust victim's life. Oh, there are so many things wrong with this. I don't know where to start. I guess we'll just start with reading from the Daily Mail on telling you more about this musical because I don't even know how to address this. I'm going to be honest with you. I thought I was going to be able to address this and come up with some opinions, but I'm just going to read and provide you some more details about this musical. The musical is in New York City. It's ignited fierce backlash for, in this according to Daily Mail, for reimagining the Holocaust victim Anne Frank as a pansexual Latina hiding from Nazi occupation with her neurodiverse family and her non-binary love interest. Why? Why does this need to exist? Much like the Hadestown musical, it doesn't need to exist. Nobody asked for it. Okay, now the phrases pansexual might confuse you, the neurodiverse, those phrases, because to be frank with you, I've never really heard of these phrases. They were definitely not phrases used back then during the Holocaust, so none of this makes sense. According to the internet, pansexual is somebody who is sexually or romantically attracted to people regardless of their sex or gender. Neurodiverse is characterized as autistic or neurologically atypical patterns of thought or behavior. One, neurodiversity. I hate that word because it almost makes it sound like things like autism or neurologically atypical behaviors are accepted and should be accepted as like something to be proud of. These are ailments that should be addressed through behavioral therapy, through medication, possibly. These are mental illnesses. Okay, that is what it is. It's mental illness. That's what neurodiverse means. Okay, so, but they call it neurodiverse because they want to portray it as something that's a positive thing. If you've ever met somebody who is extremely autistic, it is not something that is to be celebrated. Okay, and I know that's going to ruffle some feathers, but I've talked with parents who actually have autistic children, and I'm not talking about the overdiagnosed autistic, like he's just a little strange, or he has like quirky personality, which they diagnose you with autism if you just have like a slightly quirky personality. They'd probably diagnose me with ADHD because I can't pay attention to detail. It's a personality thing. But it's not something to be celebrated. Okay. Actual autism affects families, and they can't speak to people. They can't function in society, and it's a sad thing, and it should be treated and addressed, not uplifted as awesome. Talk to any parent who actually has like a nonverbal autistic child. They will tell you that it is not all kittens and rainbows. Okay, so the whole premise of Anne Frank being in hiding was that she was Jewish. That's why she was in hiding, Nazi Germany, right? And that was why she was targeted, because of her race, her ethnicity. And it had nothing to do with her romantic interest. It had nothing to do with her personality traits. It had everything to do with her being Jewish. And it's super disrespectful to, just like Hadestown is disrespectful to Christians, this musical is offensive to victims of the Holocaust, families of victims of the Holocaust, by reimagining Anne Frank and giving her malleable kind of characteristics. Jewish was not a malleable character. That was something she was born with, and she had to go into hiding because she was targeted for that. Right? And so this production titled Slam Frank, I guess it's supposed to be satirical, and it exaggerates cultural trends, and maybe it's like supposed to be a meme and funny, and it's supposed to exaggerate cultural trends around inclusivity and identity of politics, applying them to one of history's most tragic stories to critique how performative wokeness can distort storytelling. Okay, I could appreciate that maybe a little bit. You're doing something satirical, funny, but like there's so many other ways to critique wokeness, and critique how wokeness can distort storytelling or whatever. And I wish I could inform the producers of this. This is not necessary. Like, you're going to offend tons of Jewish people and you're doing it to make a point, I guess. I don't know. And like they're trying to be satirical. I think that it's deranged. I think that it's unnecessary. And the show began as a viral Instagram parody by Jewish composer Andrew Fox, who joked about creating a production to make Latinx girlies feel included in the Holocaust. The video evolved into a full-blown production. And yeah, so there's a point where satire and comedy escalates to a point of absurdity. Okay, they are having cast members belt out musical numbers about their new marginalized identities, and they're trading instead of like yellow stars. The yellow stars. They're doing it pronoun pins. Okay, so in this musical, the yellow stars that they would wear, Jewish people, they have these pronoun pins. They're actually holding like these in the musical. There's a scene where they hold like this weird, honestly satanic scene where they try to speak with the dead. I don't know. There's like a point where satire gets like, is it satire or are you guys just freaking insane? So I don't know what this is supposed to raise the awareness of, but I think the entire world could have dealt, or it could have survived without these marginalized characters singing about their pronouns and their pansexualism or neurodiversity. I think that we'd all be okay. So what this looks like to me is that the left is out victimizing themselves. These people want to be victims so badly that they have to interject themselves into one of the worst tragedies in history. This was an attempted genocide. Despite these, pansexual, neurodiverse, all this stuff, these phrases not even being a real thing at the time, they're trying to inject themselves into this attempted genocide to out-victim, I think, the Jewish people. And like the pansexuals had nothing to do with the Holocaust. The non-binaries had nothing to do with the Holocaust. And they're making the Holocaust all about themselves in this musical. And, I mean, never underestimate the left and their ability and really victim culture to make everything about them. And I don't underestimate the extent to which victim culture will go to make things about them. And I just think we could have done without it. I really do. This musical, very weird. You can try to pitch it as satirical, but there's a point where satire and like it was supposed to be a funny comedic bit. It actually becomes like, oh wow, you put a lot of effort and thought into that. I don't think it's satire anymore. Smash that like button, share this out with your friends. Subscribe to the channel. Do subscribe to the channel. We're going to be back. I do want to talk about Argentina and the beef deal that Donald Trump has got going on. So we are going to be slicing into the hot topic that has cow ranchers, cow farmers, cattle ranchers fuming, economists debating, and some of Trump's strongest supporters questioning his America First agenda. I'm going to break it all down here on the Conservative Cat Show. I'll be right back.
Sometimes God stops you cold, not with a whisper, with a punch to the soul. Saul wasn't looking for Jesus. He was hunting Christians. He had power, position, and a mission. Then God knocked him to the dirt, a light from heaven, a voice that knew his name. Saul, Saul, why are you persecuting me? That moment wasn't soft. It wasn't sweet. It was a spiritual ambush. God still works like that. He steps into your mess, interrupts your pride, confronts the man you've become when you're wandered too far. Maybe you're building your own kingdom. Maybe your fists are up. fighting battles God never called you to, or maybe you're just running hard in the wrong direction. But then comes the voice, clear, heavy, holy. Why are you persecuting me? Jesus doesn't want your behavior fixed. He wants your heart surrendered. Saul didn't get a lecture. He got a mission. Get up, go to the city. You'll be told what to do. That's the way of real manhood in the kingdom. Surrender first, then orders. You don't need every answer right now. You need to obey the voice. Follow the light. Rise up off the dirt and walk the road God lays out it for you. Some roads break you to rebuild you, and that's exactly what Jesus wants. You want to train like a warrior? You need fuel like one. Patriot Pump is clean, powerful pre-workout that won't let you quit halfway. Just like the mission God gives you, it's not about the hype. It's about the grit. Fuel up, lock in, get after it.
Hey, go ahead and smash that like button, share this out with your friends. I like this scripture. Anytime anybody shares scripture in the comment section, I jump right to it. This is John 15:10. If you keep my commands, you will remain in my love, just as I have kept my Father's commands and remain in his love. Love it. Thanks for you being here this morning. Here's Jim Ron's advice. You're the average of 5 people you spend the most time with. Choose your circle wisely. Yeah, I appreciate you being here this morning. Subscribe, hit the like button. Before we took the break, I was telling you a little bit about Donald J. Trump and his announcement. It's a plan to expand beef imports from Argentina. And he says that it's going to help lower grocery costs. It's going to lower the beef cost for American families. And supporters are saying that this is going to reduce our dependence on China. So all of this sounds good. That last part sounds really good because I'll be honest with you, cutting ties with communist China supply chain is the only way we are going to have a free nation. It's the only way forward. And the main reason why a lot of people elect Donald Trump, we want to cut ties with the Chinese communist supply chain. Okay. But there's a problem, several problems with this, and I want to address it. So the beef producers, loyal Trump voters, probably most of them, say that this move could hurt U.S. cattle farmers. And the U.S. cattle farmers right now, they're barely breaking even. There's reasons for that regulation. But the cattle farmers, they were just barely breaking even. And now they're watching the futures market tumble while imported beef rises. So prices rise. So today we're digging into all of it, Trump's strategy here, the farmers' frustration, and the bigger question, how can America move away from China if we're strangled by our own red tape? That is the question I want to talk about today. So here's what Trump said last week. He said, the only price we have that's still high is beef, and we got to get that down. One of the things we're doing is beef from Argentina. If we do that, the prices will go down. Okay. Now, in fairness, he's right about the price issue. Beef is really high. The cost of beef has skyrocketed. Working class families are struggling to put steak on the table. Inflation might be cooling, according to the White House. But try telling that to somebody checking out at Kroger. Okay. Trump is thinking short term that this is a little extra supply to meet that demand. We have an incredible demand for beef here in America. Believe it or not, we're not all vegan or vegetarian. We love our beef here in America. And he's thinking that the extra supply from Argentina will ease the grocery prices, okay, and keep food inflation down. And as he puts it, he also believes that this is going to help Argentina, who is a very good ally. But here's the catch. The extra supply doesn't just affect the grocery store. It kind of hits farmers. Okay. So Josh St. Peters, director of Illinois Beef Association, says the cattle markets have tanked since that announcement. announcement by up to almost 12% within 5 trading days of Trump's announcement there. Okay. That's real pain for men and women who raise America's beef. Okay. So he said the markets had been just strong enough to help producers break even and pay their bills. Since the president's remarks, we have seen a steady decline in live cattle and feeder cattle futures. That's directly impacting what farmers take home. Okay. So, put yourself in their boots for a second. If you're an Illinois cattleman, feed prices are high, fuel prices are high, taxes even higher. Then Washington announces its plan to import South American beef, and your profits evaporate overnight. And of course, the farmers are frustrated. Okay, farmers are saying President Donald Trump campaigned on America first, but right now producers kind of feel disenfranchised. Like, okay, what the hell? Like, people are going to be buying Argentina beef. And it kind of feels like a South America first agenda rather than America first agenda. Now, listen, we can still admire President Donald Trump and call out a policy that misses the mark. And I'm not even saying that this policy misses the mark completely. And I'll get to why here in just a second, because I think it's much more than just lowering grocery prices. Okay, this is something that Donald Trump is doing as far as foreign policy, and there's a chess game being played here, okay? This is what good, honest patriotism looks like. Calling out a policy, noticing where it misses the mark. But Trump, he does stuff like at a totally different level. He's very smart. And it's kind of hard to catch if you're not listening and watching and know what's going on globally. Okay, so the America First movement was never about blind loyalty. Okay, I want to be clear about that. It's about loyalty to the American worker. Okay, that is what America First is all about. To the family farmer, the small town producer who makes this country run while the bureaucrats in Washington, D.C. and the corporate giants in New York rake in profits. Okay, we want to be loyal to the American worker, the average worker. That's what America First is all about. It's not about blind loyalty and never working with our allies. Okay, it was never about that. But I want to take a step back and look at the global picture here, because Donald Trump isn't dumb. Like I said, he's playing a much bigger chess game, and that's what's happening here. And I think that people are missing it, and I think that farmers are hurting because of that announcement. I don't want to disparage the farmers at all, because I really do believe that there's pain here, because we're importing that Argentina beef. It's having an effect on their markets. We're devaluing the American rancher by importing from Argentina. Okay, so Argentina right now is in financial chaos. And I want to look at the global picture here. They are in financial chaos. They just had an election. The inflation is like 200%. They just elected a conservative president not that long ago, Javier Milei. Love that guy. He's funny. But he's really trying to dig this nation out of decades of socialist corruption and Chinese debt traps. Okay, so he was just recently elected, and Argentina is in financial chaos. Okay, and Trump said it very clearly in this interview. He was with the gaggle of reporters outside of Air Force One. He said, they have no money, meaning Argentina. They have nothing. If I can help them survive in a free world, I happen to like the president of Argentina. Okay, I love the president of Argentina too. Yes, Donald Trump wants to help Argentina's conservative government. And there was a recent election, and this kind of probably boosted them just across the finish line. They had victory, the conservative movement there in their recent elections. Okay, he wants to help Argentina conservative government succeed. He does not want them bending the knee to Chinese communists. Okay, he wants them in the free market camp, not the Chinese communist one. Okay, and they are in a position right now where they're looking for a hero to swoop in and save the day, and we ought to be that hero, right? Now I know, some of that Cold War, maybe you're a part of that generation, and some of my younger friends will say, like, oh, we shouldn't, spread our values or anything. Like, we should just be kind of isolationists. A lot of my friends don't believe that we should spread capitalism, conservatism, and Christianity across the world. I believe that we should. And there's a way of doing it, and Donald Trump is doing it beautifully. We just talked about his Malaysia, Cambodia, Thailand. He created a peace deal between Thailand and Cambodia. Created all kinds of trade deals with those Southeast Asian countries. And he's doing a great job. Traditionally, they have relied on China, and they probably still are going to rely on China, probably for raw minerals and materials. And we're going to be trading with them, and we're going to be somewhat trading with China still because they're reliant on Chinese communist. But we're still we're becoming the savior, America, and not everybody's going to be relying on China, which is good for the American worker. Okay. And it's so smart because if the U.S. can strengthen ties with Argentina, we can start to pull Latin America away, South America away from China's orbit. I've talked about China and their grip that they have on South America. And this is the biggest thing that we have to be concerned about in the United States. This is our biggest concern. China's influence on Africa, Brazil, South America. Okay. But there is a potential backfire here. You see, because Argentina, they get a lot of their beef exported in to Argentina. It actually comes from Brazil. It actually traces back to Brazil. And Brazil, their biggest trading partner is China. Essentially, China's built all kinds of ports there. And Brazil is basically China. Okay, so if Argentina's beef supply is partially sourced from Brazil, that means U.S. consumers could still be buying meat ultimately tied to China, which is exactly why Donald Trump wants to get us away from and why he did this trade deal. Hang in there. Hold on. It's just a different label on it, right? That's what people will say about Brazil and Argentina, and Brazil supplying the beef to Argentina and then Argentina importing it here to America. Okay. Now that's not decoupling from China. That's detouring through Brazil. Okay. And the goal, like I said, of this is to reduce our reliance on China. Now, let's connect the dots here. China's Belt and Road Initiative. We've talked about this before. It stretches across South America, billions in ports, railways, energy investments. It's all designed to control the trade routes and food production. Brazil has fully embraced it under this socialist leadership or communist leadership of the CCP. They've sold themselves out. Brazil is China. Okay. Argentina has a conservative government and they want out. Milei wants out. Okay. And a lot of these countries want out. The Southeast Asian countries want out because they've given up their freedom in exchange for big daddy government to come in and supply them with things like railways and infrastructure. And Trump sees this and he thinks, damn, let me throw them a bone. Okay. Let me throw Argentina a bone, because if I don't, China's going to come in and scoop them up, and that's going to expand their power in South America. Okay, this is a noble goal, using trade as diplomacy to fight socialism. This is what Donald Trump is doing. He's a genius, And in the gaggle, you wouldn't get this because he says, oh, we're going to lower prices and, but you've got to know the history here and what's actually going on globally to appreciate the genius that is President Donald Trump here. It's risky if that product pipeline still runs through China, by the way. Okay, if the beef is still kind of running through that China pipeline. But I'll get to that here in just a second. Because even if a portion of the Argentine beef originates in Brazil, and if Brazilian exports are financed and processed by China-backed corporations, then we're just feeding the same dragon from a different angle by importing Argentine beef. Now, here's where it gets really fascinating. it's better to get our beef that way, this indirect kind of through Brazil, through Argentina. It's better to get it through that because Argentina is still taking a cut. Okay. And we're still strengthening, the US is still strengthening Argentina, and it's still not in the control of China. Okay. So here's an example. Say you buy a General Motors car, okay, Ford. You're not supporting a Chinese manufacturer. I don't even think you're allowed to buy Chinese manufactured vehicles here in the country. But say you buy a Ford and you're not supporting a Chinese manufacturer, okay? GM, you buy a General Motors car. But there's components in that car, in that Ford, like the screen and things that actually come from China. Ultimately, it's better to buy GM than it is to buy the entire thing from the buy the entire car from a Chinese manufacturer. Okay. So it's better than directly getting our beef from China. Having this kind of roundabout way with Argentina, because we are strengthening that relationship with Argentina, and we're more importantly taking away a potential relationship with China in Argentina and weakening their stranglehold on South America. Now, here's what needs to be said. We need to cut our own red tape and ramp up our own production here in America. That is what needs to happen. And it is so hard to do that Donald Trump is willing to do this Argentina thing. Because it's so hard to cut our own red tape and ramp up our own production here. We need to ask ourselves this question: why is it so damn hard for America to keep up with the demand? So we are exiting from direct trade with China, tariffing, right? And we're getting out of this trade deal with China with the beef. Okay. Now that is going to hurt supply, obviously, if they're not importing beef here to America. So where are we going to make up that supply? Well, ideally, it would be our domestic producers here in the United States. But we don't have that much production, so we're going to have to import a little bit from Argentina. And, you know, there's a foreign policy, diplomacy happening here, you know, the chess game that Donald Trump's playing with all of that. But end of the day, we need to supplement our supply because the demand is high, and we've taken ourselves and reduced reliance on China as far as beef imports. We need to get Washington out of the way so that way we can ramp up our own production. Okay. So here's the part that nobody in the media is going to talk about. We wouldn't even need Argentina beef if our own government would stop choking out our ranchers and farmers to death in regulation. Okay. From the EPA to the USDA, environmental red tapes and labor rules. You know, it makes it impossible to hire and fire people. America beef producers, they wind up spending half of their time, not on the farm, but filling out paperwork. The Illinois Beef Association represents 17,000 producers statewide. And many of them say this all the time. You need to let us produce more so we can meet that demand. So we don't need the Argentina beef, and that's key. And if we truly want to move away from China in beef, steel, energy, then Washington really needs to stop pretending to be a partner, or they need to stop being a partner in our business, and they need to start acting like a referee, like off to the side, you know, blowing the whistle if need be. Okay. And Trump's goal to stabilize prices makes sense. I want to make this clear. It makes sense. But we shouldn't have to outsource to achieve it. This goal of lowering prices, beef prices. Now, I think that there's a totally separate goal. Now, he hasn't obviously, you know, told the media this. And if the media were smart, they'd ask questions about Donald Trump's actual goal, getting that relationship solid with Argentina, trying to take away China's stranglehold on South America and their power in that region. I think that's his ultimate goal. The lowering the prices thing is just kind of something he says for the media. But we really have to cut regulation. Like, end of the day, we should cut regulation so farmers can meet that demand themselves, always. That's what America First really means. Freeing your own people to compete instead of binding them in bureaucratic knots and calling it progress. Okay, so let's give credit where credit's due. Trump's instincts. He wants to reduce China's influence. He's supporting a conservative ally, Argentina, and he's trying also to fight inflation. It all sounds like good policy, but the way it's executed does matter. And we also, if we're going to do this Argentina thing, we also have to reduce the red tape here. If the plan does help China somewhat by proxy, it isn't completely America First, but it's better than directly buying from China beef imports. Okay. We have to try to execute this policy to where it doesn't hurt the U.S. rancher as bad. Okay. So we can criticize, I'm still pro-Trump. We can criticize nuances of this policy, but I'm pro-truth. The way we don't hurt our farmers with this policy is by unleashing them and cutting the red tape. Okay, so Trump is trying to help Argentina survive. He's trying to reduce reliance on China. He's trying to keep China from swooping in and taking Argentina like the rest of South America. And then he's also trying to keep grocery prices down. And I get that. I think the best way to go about all of this would be to just unleash American producers. Cut regulations, cut taxes, cut the nonsense. Because the way to beat China, isn't ultimately through Argentina, although this is a plan. It's letting our own people feed the world again. The way we do that is by unleashing them. We can't outtrade communism by importing from it. We outproduce communism by trusting our farmers, our ranchers, and our own God-given ingenuity. And that is what America First means. And I love the policy. I mean, I'm not crazy about the policy. There's nuances in this policy that are going to hurt the farmers. But at the end of the day, I see what Trump is doing. He's playing a chess match with China. And it's pretty cool. He's smart. And I wish people appreciated Donald Trump more for this kind of chess game that he plays all the time. All right. You guys have a blessed day. Bye-bye. Love you so much. I'll see you guys again tomorrow morning, bright and early, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m.